In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this underbust, ruched shoulder, layered, gathered dress. And this dress is from Lola's Closet on Instagram. So to start, we'll be drafting the upper part of this pattern first. Here is my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and I added 7 inches after my waistline. So here I'll mark out a basic neckline of 3 inches at this upper part. From there, I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now what I'll do is to go ahead to add how lengthy you want your sleeve to be, the length. So I'm just using 10 inches because I'm working on a pattern paper, and I'll come down by 1 inch. Now if you're making yours and you can go ahead to add more than 10 inches after your shoulder. This is a pattern paper, and that is why I'm just using 10 inches. Now just connect all the way towards that side. The next step you're going to take is to mark the depth of the neckline. This will just serve as a guide. We are still going to remark the neckline for this pattern. After marking this, I'm going to start by marking my dart. I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So for this dart, I'm going to also blend it out. I'm going to mark this all the way to that 7 inches I added after my waistline. So after marking this, what I'll do is to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'll connect this all the way up and also connect to the lower part. The next step is to go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides of the waistline. That is to mark my dart intake. I'll mark ½ inch. At the bust, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, right? And I'm going to connect this. So just like I said, I'm going to blend out this dart, and it will be like a dartless pattern towards the lower part. I'll go ahead to connect my dart to the lower part of my pattern this way. I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. The next step is to insert my measurement. I'll start from the under bust because the sleeve extended all the way to the bust area. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and just add any sewing allowance of your choice. Here I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add a sewing allowance to the pattern. So go ahead to use any sewing allowance of your choice and mark. So because I want to blend out my dart at the lower part, I will just extend my dart legs of ½ inch on both sides. That is what we have on the waistline. This way it will be easier for you to blend out your darts, so that you're going to pleat out the darts and the pattern will be looking like a dartless pattern. Now here, go ahead to mark your hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll measure this dart intake, replace it, and then add the sewing allowance. Now you want to place your ruler, connect from the waist to the underbust, and from that waist, go ahead to connect to the lower part of your pattern. What I'm going to do at this point is to go ahead to extend what I have at the shoulder all the way down, and then connect it to the underbust. Now outline it. While outlining, I'm going to give this part, that is the lower part, a little curve, and I'll just go ahead to connect it back to the underbust of my pattern, and from here I'll connect all the way down. So this is what I have, and you notice at the lower part there's a little pleating towards the bust area. So what I'll do is I'll slash here open, right, to give that pleat. So from here I'll come down by 2 inches and mark 3 inches from here, and then go ahead to reconnect. After that, blend out your dart to make sure it is matching. Now what I'll do now is to go ahead to cut out this pattern. So if you have any question, please go ahead to leave it at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. So I'll just cut out the underbust. Now go ahead to notch where the underbust meets the upper part. I'll now go ahead to cut out the rest of the pattern, that is the upper part. So for this part, I marked at the upper part, like these slash lines. I'll go ahead to slash it all the way up, and you'll be opening it a little when you're drafting, so that you have this place. Then later you pleat it back and join it to the under bust area. So I'll be using the same pattern to cut out the back pattern. For the back pattern, all you have to do is to add like a zipper allowance. So I already did that when I was cutting out my pattern. What you need to do is to add a zipper of 1.5 to 2 inches, and at the waistline come in by ½ inch, extend it all the way up and also extend it down. So you can now go ahead to cut this out, right? So this is what you'll be using also for the back pattern. Now for the lower part, we have like 3 layers of flay. I'll just use this pattern paper to illustrate. Now, for example, my gown length is 35 inches and my shoulder to waist is 17 inches plus that extra 2 inches we added after the waistline. So I have 19 inches. So what I'll do is 35 minus 19. So what I'll have is 16 inches, right? So what I'll now do is to cut out 3 layers of fabric. The first layer will be the longer one, which will be this 16 inches, depending on your height. Then the second one, you can use like 12 inches, and then the next one you can use like 8 inches, and then you place it on top of each other this way, and then you pleat. Now to get the measurement you use for the flay, that is the amount of fabric you use. You can use like 2 yards because what we have there is not full, or you can use your hip circumference and add extra 20 to 30 inches to it. Then you can now cut out layers of fabric, then go ahead to gather it round the waistline of your dress, just as seen in this video.